Hit the lights!
You've discovered the Halfwatt Podcast. We want to educate and entertain by tapping into the most trusted source of new technology, the ones installing and innovating it. You, the tradespeople that build from the ground up. Join us as we talk with industry leaders, veteran contractors, and even some young blood.
Hi, welcome to Trade Stacking. I am your host, Adam the Maniac Garner. In the studio, we have Mr. Mike Brooks, who's already freaking out.
I'm so freaking out right now.
And then we also have Mr. Michael Barnes. Say hello.
Hello.
And then I already completely forgot your name.
It's Chip.
Chip. All right. Well, Mike and Chip just did a great episode.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, you should. You did it.
We did. Big timers.
So, for trade stacking, because we like to stack trades and we like to get other trades and talk about working together as a team, not just a team within our company, but a team with all the other trades, because we're all working on the same project. We all have to complete it in a reasonable time, and we all have to learn how to work together. So that's why we invited you back in. Welcome back. Sorry you have to stay here longer, but you agreed to it.
It's good. Yeah.
There's no getting out of it, Chip. You're here,
I
brother.
see the doors.
So
I found a component.
Oh.
That's all I got to say about that.
Okay, that's fair. We see a lot of weird things in the studio.
This came off of your stuff, bro.
That's like
You failed this trade.
it's like don't ever look in a mechanic's car.
Yeah, no kidding. The
Or
worst.
an electrician's box. Or anything. All right, so since we have the newest person, Mr. Mike Barnes, I just want to get you to introduce yourself. Tell us, because you just journeyed out and became a journeyman.
Correct.
So you're recently going through the entire apprenticeship process from point A to point B, did everything. Now you got the license. You basically have your entire future in front of you. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
I did some of my training up in Washington. So when I came down here, they gave me half my hour, like 200, 2,000, whatever it is, hours and a third of my classes. So it was kind of different going through it because I'd have different classmates every semester because they'd be bouncing me around.
And for those who are not aware, Oregon and Washington is a licensed state. It's not licensed across the nation, but Oregon and Washington, since we're bordering each other, there's a lot of reciprocity with a certain understanding that things aren't necessarily one for one, but it's better than going.
Because you've had previous, because you had some of the apprenticeship hours in Washington, they could apply it towards the program.
That's
which
correct.
is why I didn't see you in my classes, because I think I signed off on what you'd already done.
Yes.
And I'm in the teaching the beginning classes.
Gotcha.
Right now. So, nice.
So how long were you in Washington?
Like for the classes or just overall?
Well, you started in Washington.
Yeah.
You said you came over here. How long were you in Washington when you were starting in the trade?
I started 2016 after I got out of the military, and I wanted to just do anything electrical. So I went to Bates up there and did high voltage and did that for a year and 3 months.
All right, I can already see some people making some faces because Mr. Brooks here is previous military.
Yeah, what did you do in the military?
I was a wire dog, so just a phone troop
For
the
Army?
Oh no, Air Force.
Oh, an Air Force?
Yes.
No, wire dog?
Yes. They have like wire dog and cable dog. So for us, it was like anything in the phone, like 110 blocks and 66 blocks and all that. So I did that, and the wire dogs did the actual like underground polling, but I would assist them once in a while.
Nice.
So it'd be the difference between like a high side electrician and a low voltage. I mean, similar to that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just
Gotcha.
mostly for communication.
Oh, okay, I got you.
I was a comm troop.
Right on.
And then you said you came out and you started doing what he did, which was high voltage. So how long were you doing the high voltage for?
I did it for a year and 3 months. So it was the first year we did resi stuff, and then the second year was going to be commercial / industrial. So, like, it taught us how to do, like, EP and showed us tools and how to calculate stuff. I enjoyed it because you could, took you out to Habitat for Humanity and actually, pulled the wire
wow.
there and
That's cool.
actually get to do the rough-in, do the...
So you're not just working in buildings, you're going out into the wild and actually doing
Yes.
electrical work.
because they have their own permit up there, so you would have to do the mock house inside the college. So you would dig a trench, put the conduit under, put in the outside. The terms escape me, but like the
meter base.
Yeah, the meter base, and then the circuit breaker, and then you actually get the circuit breakers, put them in, run over, and you gotta put in like a circuit for what is it? A washer and dryer, a fridge. They test you because they don't tell you what you need. You just gotta read in the NEC, see what's required in a house. So it's like most people put too many receptacles in a room because they read it and they think, oh, every 6 feet you need to put a receptacle, but a receptacle goes 6 feet here, goes 6 feet here, so you do like every 12 instead.
Gotcha.
Why can't I just have more power?
I mean, you can, but it costs
More power?
It just costs more.
Oh, okay. So why the decision to, because it sounds fascinating.
I enjoyed it.
Why make the change from the high voltage side and go down to the low voltage side?
I had a disagreement with the second term, what is it?
The program or?
Well, the instructor.
Okay.
Him and I just didn't see it eye to eye. And
Did you punch him?
No.
Oh.
Did he deserve it?
He probably would, but he's a good guy. He just...
Remember, I'm not advocating for violence here,
We
folks.
don't advocate violence. We don't endorse violence.
But some people
Today.
do.
Yes, today.
So you just didn't get along with him, huh?
Yeah, well, it was more like, no matter what I did, it was not good enough. And, not to toot my own horn and all that, but a lot of the other instructors and the students were like, you were the top of the class. And, like, everyone else at lunch would go home, and I would stay back and keep working on our mock home because we were supposed to, finish it at a certain time. And then he would come in and he's like, why isn't it done and all this? But he would know that everyone would just leave after lunch and not help me. So I'm just one man trying to build up a mock house. So after that, he's like, you're too slow, you're this XYZ. So I lost confidence in my ability. So I just I can't do this. And I left. And when I was leaving, that's when he's like, oh, no, I was trying to push you because, some people, they try to motivate you by saying you're not good enough. So they're trying to build you up. I'm not that type. You tell me you're not good at it, I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. So I just walked away.
Going to Oregon, dude.
There's the carrot and the stick method, and the stick was not working for you.
No.
I get that.
Because, working in the trades, we got to work with high volt, low volt. We got to work with plumbers. We got to work with carpenters. We got to work with sheetrockers. We got to work with HVAC.
Fire people.
Yeah, there's there's
So-
always going to be some ego.
So I'm
right?
low voltage. I'm not on the high side.
Oh,
so,
okay. I
yeah.
totally misunderstood.
So yeah, I'm a half watt through and
True
through.
half watt. Okay. But a fireman before that.
Oh, that's right. A fireman, legit.
Like
Yeah,
Like
legit.
you're breaking
right here.
Like here in
Canby.
Canby. Yeah.
you're breaking doors down, saving babies left and
Try
right.
it. Try it.
Driving everything.
So what are you going to do? Are you going to go back and go to the high side or eventually? Or?
I signed up for the union, so I'm going to go try that side for a bit.
Well, that's
Nice,
what he's
nice.
in. There's a union. He's an
Well.
IBW.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So, yeah.
So you're going to go join the union and be a high voltage guy?
No. Still, I think they call it sound and...
Yeah, sound and comm, LEA.
Yeah.
And that's what, so that's exactly, so you should talk because that's exactly what he is.
Yeah.
All right.
Sign the
Well.
books.
Yeah.
See, this is why I like Church Stacking. We're bringing people together. We're making
stacking.
connections.
So
We're getting people work.
Adam and I we represent the non-union side. And
No,
We won't hold that against you. I
You know,
mean, the
no.
non-union side. I mean,
that's a really important point to bring up
It is.
because there are some people that are very adamant one way or the other.
Yeah.
And everybody has their personal reasons for that, whether it's financial or the way they were raised or how one or the other has particularly treated them in the industry.
Sure.
But it's nice that we can sit here and be, non-union side on one side, union on the other, and like Michael, Mr. Barnes is about to experience, you can go between the two, and it's perfectly okay. We don't hold. Well, I'd like to say we don't hold grudges, but there's always going to be some people out in the industry that do.
There's always and I'm not an IBEW guy, but I am an AFSCME union member. So I belong to the union that represents the worker bees for the state for OHSU.
Well, at the end of the day, though, we're all just trying to go in and do our job and go
damn
home
much.
safe, and work well with others. So, I mean, the particular reasons why you are or why you aren't are pretty much unimportant at the end of the day. So.
I think you're right. But how long is your apprenticeship? Isn't it? I think it's longer than
The apprenticeship for me was 3 years.
Okay, so it's the same.
3 years of school and then 3 years to pay back. You'd had to stay in the union for a total of 6 years, something like that. But
Yeah, I can see that. It'd be a way to protect the investment,
exactly.
Let's just say you raise somebody in a company and they get a license and then they decide they're just going to go out.
I wonder who that is.
There's
No, that's fine. Everybody's got to do that.
My last company too. If you were sent to ESD school, became an EST3 tech, then they expected you to stay at least a year.
Sure.
And which makes sense.
Yeah,
because
they're investing in your.
I agree with that.
Yeah, that's a very big investment. That's a couple grand at least.
Oh gosh,
Yeah,
oh,
even more
easily,
than that.
easily.
Yeah, and then of course,
and if you can program ESD, you are a programmer. You are a true, honest to God programmer because that is a difficult system to program.
yeah, I think we've talked about it on previous podcasts, and just right here again in trade stacking, there's all kind of systems that we touch, whether or not it's a simple little one button access for a receptionist. That doesn't take that much programming. You could do that in a couple of hours and be 100% done with the job. And then you've got 20-story high rises that you got to sit down for like a week and plan.
You can't just cut and
everything
paste.
If you do it right, yes, you can.
If you do it right.
But
However,
you still have to cross the right T's, dot the right
It
I's.
seems like ESD, is that or
EST.
EST? I think that's what I put in at Roosevelt High School.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really good system. It has a
It seemed like it had some interesting nuances, though.
yes.
Like
mapping.
mapping.
Yeah.
I believe,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, mapping is proprietary to the EST.
It is.
Yeah.
It's because they don't have addresses. You don't buy it an address. Like Siemens, you'd program it,
Mm-hmm.
or Silent Night, you could program it, or you dip switches, depends on which one you got, or rotaries. But with EST, it comes out of the factory with a preset address, and so once you put them all in,
Because we had all the stickers with the barcodes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those are the addresses.
and it maps itself. So
Yeah.
it'll map where all the devices are at, and it draws a map in its head of where everything's at. So now, if I've got 5 devices here, and I take out the third one and swap its address, if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I put in 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then the system goes, oh, okay, I know what I'm doing now.
Okay.
If the programmer turned mapping on.
Yes,
Because if they didn't, then they screwed
But
up.
if you
They're getting in the weeds now.
But if you program it weird, or
We're
you wire it
installers.
weird, it
There's
just
a-
it
We're
doesn't-
installers. They're programmers.
Then you want to take
Exactly.
it back to it.
Well, this again, we're talking about trade stacking and working together, right? Because if some companies, let's take mine for example. I run the gamut of everything. I do installs all the way up to specialized programming, and sometimes I'll take care of it as well. But sometimes I have to work with other teams in my office, or I get subcontracted to be like parts and smarts. So let's say a company like Capital Electric, for example, they will go and take care of all of the actual wiring and installation out in the field. But then I get contracted to come out and do the programming and testing.
That's what sounds familiar.
Yep.
That's
So-
exactly what we do. You carry the permit for testing and commissioning, and I'll do the electrical permit for the wiring side of it, and that works well.
So we have to work together, and if I can't necessarily trust the installers to do the job right, and I go and I start programming and suddenly things go really haywire, well, then I got to stop and I got to work with the installers. Okay, what went
What were
wrong?
you thinking here?
Great example. Did a 6-story high-rise apartment complex, not a high-rise, excuse me. And I was parts and smarts, and I was working with the electrical contractor for a couple months because, big building. So I constantly do the meetings. All right, this is how this has to go. This has this. We got to do this change, whatever the case is. We got 100%, and then we had a team of 6 go and do the testing. And then we find out, there's an entire wing that just isn't working for some reason. So, go back to the original installer. All right, what do you guys think? He's like, well, my apprentice did it. I was like, all right, I got an idea.
And he's no longer with us. So
No, he was.
Oh.
And he's like, I thought I did everything right. I'm like, I think I know exactly what
Did
happened.
those things take wire? Oh, hold on.
No, all I did was he accidentally reversed the wires on one device,
What
took
happens?
out everything else
Yeah.
on the other side. So, I'm not going to yell at the guy or blame him. I'm just going to say, hey, this is a good learning experience. Good thing we're in the testing process. This is how we learn.
So that was the pre-testing, though, right?
Yes.
Getting ready for the test.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we, unfortunately, again, we work with a lot of trades. Another trade that came in after we were done with the pre-testing were the insulators. So we brought in the marshals, who also brought in a team because they wanted to expose as much of the fire department to this particular building. And then we went around looking, and I go into the garage, and I can't find my device because the insulator's just insulated right over it.
With the spray type?
No, luckily.
That would be. That's
I think I hear it.
Well, I guess depending on how you look at it, this might be worse. It was the physical installation of the insulation where they actually have to get up
The
on
batting.
the ladders. Yeah, and then
With
staple
the wire
it in.
batting and staple it in.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
You're like, well, how did you not notice the device was there? And of course, I'm sitting there with the fire marshal. Isn't there a device there? Yes, I tested it myself. Let me go talk to the other trade who, oops, made a mistake. We now need to work with them
Right.
to, and again, I don't want to mess up another trade's work as much as I can. I'll be like, okay, this is roughly where it is. I don't want to start ripping out your insulation. Let's again work together as a team so I can get my device re-exposed and I don't destroy all the work that you did that accidentally almost ruined my work.
I had a team of painters come through and caulk all the pole stations in a place.
Oh.
It looked good. It looked so good. It looked so good. I was like, dude, that's baller. As I'm cutting this shop to test all the pole stations, I'm like, you can't do that.
And again, previous trade stacking episodes, I talked about the importance of learning other trades, and this is a perfect example of it because you can work with somebody, let's say like a finished contractor who's making everything really nice, like the studio, for example. So they want to do a nice wood paneling, but your pole station went to the sheetrock. All right, you got to take yours off. You got to bore a hole through the nice finished wood. Then you got to mount your stuff on top of that. But again, you know what their intention is. You know how to prep for that. Or you're working with like a HVAC company, and they have their equipment, and you have your equipment. And of course, there's a lot of, well, once you bring, I'm going to bring my wires to you and not touch your equipment. Well, it's not technically my equipment because you're monitoring it, so it's your equipment. Like, well,
Right.
why don't we work together as a team and figure this out? Or again, learn what they do. So if you have a guy who doesn't want to go the extra step to help you out and work together, you can take care of it yourself if it comes down to it.
We had kind of similar situation like that with like, we were talking about smoke detectors earlier, and if who's going to install them, the HVAC guy or the parts and smarts guy or the
Especially duct detectors, because
Right,
that's a
right.
big one. Yeah.
And then so we, and you negotiate that with whatever the trade is, and then okay, you install it, and I'll bring you, a set of closed contacts, or or wire it up where you want, and then I'll
I'll do the legwork in between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's there's that negotiation and you're talking about, and
Well, especially as you pointed out, duct detectors are a big one because you've got you potentially have 3 trades involved because you got the HVAC company
Mm-hmm.
and the HVAC tech may or may not have like a high voltage license, and they have a bunch of high voltage going to it if they wired it that way. Because the older ones, generally speaking, worked off of 120.
Yeah,
The
they
newer
did.
ones are now
And up
working
to
off of
240
24.
on some of them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the bigger ones.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, well, something as simple as a duct detector. Well, you generally need a fire tech, an HVAC tech. You need a high voltage tech. Potentially, depending on the building, you also need like a maintenance manager because you're potentially shutting down something
Sure,
that's really
yeah,
important.
Yeah.
Like,
Even a sheet metal worker sometimes depends on where it's got to go.
Oh yeah, and if you
the
go
duct
from
is 12 foot wide, you may need help.
you go from one type of duct detector to a new duct detector, and you're like,
Yeah.
well, now we have to rewire everything, and then of course people are thinking, well, it's a duct detector.
Yeah,
Let's
it's just plug and play.
It's
Yeah.
easy.
why can't we just have our maintenance guy do
Why
it?
can't we be friends? That's the difference.
Yeah, and then of course you get into, well, how deep into it are you going to go, right? Because I've replaced duct detectors myself, and they go, well, did you replace the tube? Yes, because I know how to do that, and I've done it before.
Did you aim the holes the right direction? That's my favorite.
Hey, airflow gets in there, okay. If the air has to go around the pipe first, that's no big deal, right?
Did you know that you're supposed to take a manometer with you when you do those to test airflow when you install, and even when you inspect them?
Most of
That's
the
what
ones
they're
I've
supposed to-
installed, though, they're not even operational yet. I mean, especially the newer stuff. I mean, but
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting that the code, asks you or tells you you should monitor how much air is moving through it. It's like, yeah,
So
I'm not-
we're going to talk about code here for a second because
gonna do
everyone
that,
loves
yeah.
to talk about code. So the specific NFPA 72 code for like a lot of smoke and especially duct detectors will require smoke entering the chamber. Now, how you do that is a matter of, let's say, opinion, because generally it's going to be easier for you to pop the cover off, shoot smoke in it, but a lot of smoke or a lot of ducts now actually have a inlet test port, so you can put your smoke right to it. You don't have to actually take anything off. I once had a mechanical inspector ask me to smoke the HVAC.
Put it in the slipstream of air.
I'm sorry, what did you ask me? He's like, I want you to take this and I want you to just smoke that vent up there. Like, what the hell's that going to accomplish? He's like, shouldn't your thing catch that? Like, it's not a VESDA system.
right.
It's not designed for that. Well, he's like, okay, well, how much smoke do you think you're going to need to do that? A case? I mean, we're talking about something that's got like 8,000 cubic feet a minute.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah. Yeah.
that's just not going to happen.
Well, I've also seen where the some of the newer designs, when you take the cover off, that kills the power tone.
Oh, because the
then
safety switch.
Now, the safety switch is in there. It's got like a reed switch. So you pull the cover, and now it's dead. So you're supposed to shoot smoke to jam the cover on. It's
That's
like,
exactly what you're supposed to do.
okay, this is all about timing. Here we go.
No, the worst part is I got caught in front of a fire marshal because they redesigned that detector, but they didn't tell me about the safety switch.
Yeah, I
So-
know exactly.
So you'd
which
smoke
one.
it, take the cap off, smoke it, and then put it back on, and it still wouldn't.
No, because the other ones didn't require the casing.
Oh, gotcha.
So, and to be fair, this was a few years ago when they came out with that change.
This is the system sensor one.
So I'm sitting there smoking, and I'm like, it's just not going off. And I just tested
Why
this like
isn't
a
it
week
working?
ago. And then, of course, he leaves and is all pissed off, and rightly so, because I screwed up. And then I'm putting it back together, and I hear the click, and I see the light go on, and I'm like, oh. So
You could just see, Honeywell. I would just scream that.
Yeah, I just don't know why they would make you smoke. I mean, because they do the smoke on all the smoke detectors everywhere else. I mean,
I don't get it
just,
either.
It's just the magnet thing. That's just as good as.
it's the code,
Well.
because you can have a magnetic test port work, but the smoke chamber does not.
Right.
Now, of course, NFPA 72 code will also say that an acceptable test is the manufacturer's suggested test, which would be the
If they list that
the
as.
magnet. Yeah.
Right on.
Well, have you ever been in a jurisdiction where they require you to use a Hochiki punk stick?
Chris?
No.
He knows it already. I had to buy one of these because the original one broke on us. And if you've not seen one of these, this is a Japanese-made Hochiki, the company, super long smoke pole. And you actually light a punk or you light a thing and you put it in there with a little motor. If you get the DC batteries, if you get the D-cell batteries in backwards, it sucks this. I had a technician going, the smoke won't come out of the end of the pole. I said, you got the batteries in wrong.
Have you seen?
Because the goddamn fan runs backwards anyway.
Have you seen the original smoke poles? They're basically incense cups.
No, I've not seen that. I've only seen this. But the smoke that this thing produces, first off, it smells like ass.
Copious amounts.
It literally leaves a residue.
No.
And so when you look in the thing, like you'll see the residue that it leaves. It's a pretty cool. It was not cheap. It was not cheap.
Yeah, we've come a long way from candles and incense.
Yeah, cigarettes and cigars.
Well, even the canned stuff is not that. Doesn't work that well. I mean, I like that little cup thing that you guys have, you know, but
Well, you need that. I remember a elevator shaft that they placed the smoke detector right at the ventilation, and they asked me to smoke it. I'm like, I don't have a cup. They're like, well, can't you just smoke it? No. There's way too much airflow. It'll never go off. They're like, well, you think it's gonna work in the event of a fire? No. It's not gonna work.
You chose poorly.
I'm like, well, didn't you guys design this? I didn't have anything to do with this. I'm just here accepting and doing the commission test. Well, we're going to go back to Mr. Burns here for a second. What is on the horizon for you making the leap from one company to the next, going from from non-union to union? You're going to stick with low voltage. You're going to work on specialized systems. What's the goal here?
Honestly, the goal is go union. That's it. Like, whatever they throw at me, like, you're just going to do nurse calls or whatever. I'm like, okay, I'll do that. Access control, security, fire.
That's a good attitude, because there's a lot of people who don't want to touch specific things, and you being willing to go headfirst into anything that they need is going to take you a lot farther than the others who just refuse to do half of their work.
Yeah, I just want to honestly be well-rounded. Like, I want to do access control for a bit and then do security, and I've been doing fire, so I have some knowledge of that, but I just want to bounce around a bit. That way I can see which one I really like, and then so that's what I want to specialize in and go for it. I don't want to be kind of pigeonholed into one.
And that's I think that's a good thing for anybody who enters in the trades. It's like, you don't have to pigeonhole yourself into one thing. You know, whether or not you're low voltage, you want to work on specific systems, or you want to be a carpenter and build large houses, go into commercial, do finish work, furniture work. I mean, period. That's a huge
Or
huge
metal. I mean.
Or you want to be a welder. You could be welding the steel off of main buildings. You could be doing like the HVAC equipment. You could be an underwater welder. You know, I always thought that'd be pretty interesting.
Well, steam fitter, pipe fitters. I mean, like J.H. Kelly.
Yeah, exactly.
All that large stuff.
And sprinkler fitting.
Yeah.
Yep. And as many people will say too, you could spend 5 years doing something in a trade and decide, you know what, I'd like to do something else. Because, you know, since I work with a lot of different trades and I'm out in the field a lot, there's a lot of, let's say, non-technical trade guys who will do more, like, let's say, manual labor. Sheetrockers, for example. That's a lot of manual labor.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
Yeah.
You're throwing up 8x4s. If you're not cutting them, you're doing that just over and over and over again.
It's paid by the piece, too. I mean.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and then not to mention, you know, you got to come back, you got to tape, you got to mud, you got to do all these things. So there's just a lot of, sometimes I would say, unpleasant, especially you get to the sanding. You're putting on a bunch of masks, protecting yourself, of course, which every trade should do. Safety goggles, PPE is important, you know. But I get a lot of conversations with them. They say, well, you know, maybe I want to do something else. Like, you can
Yeah.
do whatever you want. You need to make the decision, number one, that you want to do something different, and then just go start talking to other trade on the job site. Doesn't matter what job site you're on, I can guarantee at minimum there's going to be half a dozen to a dozen different trades on the site at one point, and you'll have opportunities to chat with anybody. And I find, at least out in the field with me, that everybody is, possibly to the detriment of their companies, always willing to take a break and chat. It's like, let's just take a quick 5. Let's reassess, and let's just chat this guy up and see what he wants to talk about, wants to learn the trade. I remember going to a movie theater, and I was just walking through, and I overheard a conversation of a mother talking to her young son about the difference between her husband that went through, the typical 4-year college education, got the degree, paid a lot of debt, versus a trade. And I just chimed in real quick and said, hey, not to be rude and interrupt here, but I couldn't help it overhearing, and I've done both. So let me, share your thoughts. And they appreciated it.
Well, you have a bachelor's? I
do.
In what?
3D art and animation.
Nice.
So I call it my most expensive hobby.
I do. Well, if you've been in my class, I usually have everybody in the class talk about what they did before they got into the trade. Every one of them. I've had pilots. I had 2 physicists, 2 people that had degrees in physics.
Yeah.
I've had, the pilot was one that blew me away. He just went through my class a couple of terms ago, and he flew those Embry air. It's like a Brazilian-made aircraft or something like that, and we flew all over the globe. I was like, "Why'd you get out of that?" He goes, "I'm tired of it.
Right.
I want to do something different."
Right.
Just like your environment.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
"I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to do
Right.
something different." I'm getting too old and I want to change.
And the benefit with changing, let's say, from an airplane pilot over here, well, generally speaking, almost every trade pays for the education, and you will get paid out of the gate. Now, depending on, of course, where you come from, that pay might be quite different, but at least
cost of living,
Yeah.
east side of the state versus being in the metro area for sure. I mean, you'll see that
absolutely.
just in that, and then state by state.
But you don't have to worry about, I don't want to, not work for 3 years and go back to school.
Right.
It's like, well, you're going to work, and you're going to get paid money to work, and depending on the company, possibly pay for your education as well. So when you're talking about it from like an economic perspective, depending on where you're coming from, okay, maybe there's a small decrease or change, but if that's temporary, because it will increase as you get more skilled in the trade and you get your certifications and or licenses, we're not talking about, 50 to 100 grand for another 3-4 year bachelor's or something.
Yeah.
So the investment is more of time and effort than it is economics.
That's a good way to put it.
So it's something I always suggest. It's like, it's not nearly as bad as you think.
And you were in the Air Force, so your original technical training was provided while you're in the Air Force. So
That's correct.
you got your base training there, figured out what you'd like it. Did you ever think about doing something different in the Air Force? Did you ever look at it and go, I should have been something different. I should have been a
Only when
jumper."
I got out, because then I started doing electrical, and I'm like, I should have just stayed in to be an electrician in the military. But that's the only time.
Yeah. How long were you in?
8 years.
Wow. What'd you leave as? Like at E5 or?
Yes, staff sergeant.
No kidding.
Mhm.
Wow. Yeah, that's a long time in the Air Force.
Yeah, I dragged my feet staying as E4 because I was like, NCO, got to do meetings, got to have troops, all that. I was like, no, I'm going to stay on the best.
I left as an E6, and I'm telling you, the best rank in the Navy was E5. The best rank. Like, you're in between all the crap. So it was unbelievable. So as I went E6, it was like, oh, God. Oh, God.
So do you know who you're going to work for yet, or?
No, I only
signed the books next week.
Signed the books, and I'm taking 2 weeks off for vacation.
Right on.
And I didn't want to hey, sign me on. Oh, by the way, I'm going to go take vacation.
Gotcha.
So.
Well, so Chip works for EC. So if you
Yeah,
get the opportunity.
ECU's a good company.
ECU's a good co.
Yeah.
And I work with a boatload of Dyna people. A boatload.
I haven't looked at any of the dispatching right now, so I don't even know.
There's nothing there yet, but the person I was talking to in the union said in the first of the year there's going to be
this is always kind of, I mean,
it's slow
for
now.
union and probably for non-union and the like.
Christmas,
it's
man.
Christmas. Everybody's
take some
kinda,
time off. First of the year, all kind of stuff will break free.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
that's how it's going to work. Because every company wants to take the time off. So it's like, hey, I'd like to schedule some work. No, we're gonna take the extra time off. Okay, no problem. When would you like your stuff done? First week of January.
First week of January. It's always nice. Well, and the union's got a whole different way. Like when you're there's no vacation, so you pack. Right? Am I right?
Yeah,
so you have to have enough responsibility to stack all that cheddar up so that you can take your vacation time.
Yes.
Well, several years ago, they created a forced savings account, if you will, but they compensated, for that, and that's your vacation bank.
So then so as you're working, you're banking vacation. So it's just
cash that's going into this separate account that's called the vacation account.
I like that. That's
and you
good.
can either keep it there or take it as it comes. So
because I talked to Mike, Matt, the one I was talking to, and he said, there's people who will save up and then they're like, I'm going to take some of it out and pay for something because you have access to it anytime.
I'm going to buy a new car.
I guess if you haven't touched it in a while,
money. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's a lot of what military guys do. All their stuff is paid for, and it's like, well, I got all this cash. What am I gonna do? Let's go buy a Range Rover.
It was. I tell you what was nice about the military was that from the minute you went in, you had 30 days. You're only working 11 months out of the year. Flat out. Like, I'm only working 11 months this year. And if you ask for time off, you generally got it.
Yes.
Unless you're on a ship, in which case you're like, can I take tomorrow off? No. Because we're all here, jerk.
Yeah. I will say the military is probably the easiest time I had in my life. It was show up at 7:30 and leave at, for us, 2:30 because they just wanted to go work out. So you got paid to go work out.
Nice.
And I didn't have to work the weekends. The only time I ever had to work. So anytime anyone wants to join, I'm like, do you Air Force and do either medical or communications? Anything else, then you're working crazy hours. But
So did you ever? So you never really got deployed or anything?
Oh, I deployed twice.
Where did you go?
Afghan, Kandahar, and then Al Jaber, Kuwait.
Oh, nice. So you did so you get to see overseas a little bit. Yeah, that's not bad.
First one was rockets and people, saying get down and all that good stuff. The next one was just sweep dust off of sidewalk.
The first one was rockets. People saying get down. You should get a T-shirt that says that. I went to Afghanistan and all they told me to do was duck. No, I get it.
All right. Well, as somebody who has just, how long has it been since you carded out and you got your license in the trade?
I'd say 2 or 3 weeks.
Nice.
Okay, so he's really, really fresh.
Yes.
So having just completed it, literally in a matter of weeks and getting your license and just completed the apprenticeship and the whole 9 yards, what would be the thing that you would tell anybody who's potentially interested in going into it or who's in it and maybe they're at a slog right now or something, a low point maybe? What would your biggest piece of advice be for them?
Honestly, what got me through is, my joke is ADT, Adam, Tyler, and Doug. Because anytime I had a low point, I would always talk to them, and they would always find a way to boost my confidence.
You've got a future as a comedian.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty damn good.
It wasn't another dumb technician.
Wasn't another dumb technician or always done twice.
It just worked out perfectly.
That's funny.
So you're saying that, going from the previous experience you had in Washington with a guy who was, let's say, giving you the carrot or the tough love versus, I can't put this another way, the more tender love.
Well, it's just knowing that you have people that have your back and willing to help you with anything, it really helps. So like if you're having issues with your current company, I would suggest try to find some, like, first talk to people, but if you can't, go to another company and try to see if you could, I guess, mingle with them, and maybe it's just the coworker, the settings, because the trade is good. I enjoy it every day. It's just,
Sometimes you have the personality that
yes,
tries, you might, somebody might just rub you the wrong way. But it's good to hear that we treated you okay through the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons you stuck with it. Hopefully we all have
A is for
experience.
Adam.
I know what you're talking about.
How come you're turning all red?
I may or may not have had something to do with it, but not all.
If you go to EC, it'll be C for Chip. This is working out well for you.
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect.
Is there a
So
Ethan or an Edward over there?
Eddie, Ethel.
Ethel and Chip.
So how is the longevity at ADT? I mean, have you been there quite a while, Adam?
Technically, yes.
Okay.
Because we.
Well, they were absorbed. He
Yes.
was with another company.
Gotcha.
So
Um,
now that
They got you
Everon-
out of attrition from the.
Was it
Yeah.
was it Action to begin with, or
No, Action Technologies is still its own independent
So-
company.
what was tell us which company you were working for, how it all went?
Started with Allied,
Allied.
went to Protec. Protec was acquired by ADT at the
Okay.
same time. ADT acquired ASG. They merged us together under the ADT banner, so they sort of just acquired us. And now ADT has been purchased and is now a private company, Everon.
Okay.
So technically, I work for Everon now, not
Right.
ADT.
Everyone works for Everon. Everyone.
Everon.
It was
is-
Protec is what I was trying to remember.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a changing community because as you know, if you're not in the industry, at least our industry right now, Carrier owns EST, which has a pretty big umbrella. JCI owns Simplex and Tyco and Metasys and all these different. So they're have their big umbrella of stuff going on.
And if you don't know, they're owned by Honeywell.
Yeah, who makes everything else?
Sure,
Hey, we
sure,
make
sure.
heads-up displays, torpedoes, and fire alarm systems.
Right.
So
Drones.
yeah, drones
It's possible. I haven't gone that far into their
and
catalog.
HVAC. Yeah. What else do you guys make?
A lot. Well, Mr. Barnes, would you like to leave us with a tech tip of the day? How about if you don't have a tech tip, you could also say like the biggest pet peeve that you have to deal with.
My biggest pet peeve is drop ceiling. Just trying to put that thing back on and not destroy it. No worse.
The guy who invented the T-bar ceiling is in hell, and I'm super happy for that. I don't want him out because these things are hell.
I will
Yes.
100% support that position. They're just awful to deal with.
They're awful, man. And we're gonna find out that this stuff is cancerous because I can guarantee it. It's just like that yellow insulation or rock wool. You ever dealt with rock wool?
Yeah.
Oh my God! You ever dealt with rock wool yet?
I don't think I have.
It's this
bad.
green, high density insulation that they'll put above ceiling tiles in an area where they want to keep noises
People out.
down. Yeah, people.
People. Vermin.
It goes into
Whatever.
it gets into your back of your neck and does things with your skin. It's indescribable. It's good stuff, but it's just like everything else. It's just got this. Who invented this? Why is it here?
Special place in hell.
Yes.
Insulation is my. me and insulation.
Especially old insulation.
Yeah,
Yes.
For sure.
not the blown in stuff because that I can deal with that,
Mhm.
but it's that old like you go up in an attic and it's there's wires running underneath it. You can't tell
Oh,
what the
yeah,
hell's going
yeah.
on.
Yeah.
All right.
Scary.
Well, on that awful note, we're going to call it a night. Thank you
All the
everyone for
insulation people are
joining
going, I'm never going on trade stacking. You just got to talk smack about our insulation. I hate that Mike Brooks guy.
That's what we do. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Make sure to check out the website. Email us at halfwattpod@gmail.com.
Sure.
We'd love to, again, any trade. It doesn't matter what you are. You could be a sheetrocker. You could be the dirty insulation guys, and we'd still want to talk to you.
Okay, we'll make an exception for insulation guys.
Well, thanks for joining us. Everybody have a good night.
Thanks for listening to the Half Watt Podcast. We always want to hear from you, and we encourage you to email us at halfwattpod@gmail.com with questions or even your own stories. Funny, crazy, or praiseworthy, we want to hear it all. You can follow us on Instagram at halfwattpod to stay up to date on our feed. And be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And share us with a friend, the best way to help us grow. The Half Watt Podcast is a production of Now Hear This Studios.